لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين. So we come back to the text. We've done the first 5 of the second set of chapters. Now we're on the second 5, beginning with Bab az-Zuhd. قال المصنف رحمه الله ونفعنا في الدارين آمين. قال الله عز وجل بقية الله خير لكم إن كنتم مؤمنين. So this chapter called Bab az-Zuhd, or the chapter of renunciation, he begins with the verse from Surah Hud, بقية الله خير لكم إن كنتم مؤمنين. That what Allah has left shall be better for you. So it's interesting that he chose this verse to talk about zuhd, because renunciation means that, usually when we think of zuhd, we say zuhd fi dunya, tazhad fi dunya, right? To renounce the dunya and all of its trappings and its delights and so forth. So if you do that, then what's left? Baqiyatullahi khayrun lakum. Right, that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, this is what is best for you. And that which is here, right? And the word baqiya means alladhi yabqa, right? That which remains. And that which does not remain, alladhi yafna, right? That which is heading towards annihilation. Kullu man alayha fan, right? Kullu man alayha fan. Everything on the face of the universe, all of it, fani, it's going, will be annihilated. And here the word that's used, fani or fan, with the tanween at the end, is ism fa'al, which means that's what it is right now, not what it will be. So that means, just like when we say inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, raja yani, I'm already raja', I'm already on my way back. Not I'm going to be on my way back, I am there already. So that which is contingently, as the ulama of Aqidah say, contingently existent, doesn't really then exist at all. Because without Allah, it wouldn't exist to begin with. So if that's what it's ayil, right, that's where it's headed towards, right, and the eventual reality that it will be no more, and this is only its temporary reality, then how much effort and how much striving and how much of our aspirations and our hopes should we put into it when it's something that is fleeting and that's not going to stick around anyway. بَقِيَّةُ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. If you're truly believers, that which Allah has, and to have the raghbah and to have the desire towards Allah, this is what would be better for you if you truly know, if you truly believed. So he defines zuhd then, إسقاط الرغبة عن الشيء بالكلية وهو للعامة قربة وللمريد ضرورة وللخاصة, there's a spelling mistake here, خشية. And another narration, خسة, which I'll describe why he would say that. So إسقاط الرغبة عن الشيء بالكلية, it means foregoing in entirety something. In other words, not having the desire for something in its entirety. You don't want anything of it. إسقاط الرغبة عن الشيء بالكلية. So a categorical or a complete foregoing or lack of desire for something. This is what zuhd means. And here we're going to talk about zuhd fi dunya. So he says, هو للعامة السالكين, right, for most wayfarers, قربة, right, it is a means of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, in other words, to do without certain things, as a means to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, عامة الناس, that's what it is. وللمريد ضرورة. However, for the murid, right, or for the one who is a resolved wayfarer who's on a path, it's a darura, it's a necessity, because you will not achieve those maqamat that you're looking for or that you aspire to, unless you leave aside everything that's going to get in the way. And the dunya certainly is one of the main obstacles that is going to get in the way. وَلِلْخَاصَّةِ خَشْيَةِ. In one narration. Khashya yani, it's a way of reverence. Why didn't he say darura? Why didn't he say necessity for al-khassa, for the elite? Because for them it doesn't have the place in the heart anymore to begin with. And as we'll see in the third level, he's going to talk about az-zuhud fi az-zuhud. Az-zuhud fi az-zuhud. Just like in the second chapter of this book, he talked about at-tawbah min at-tawbah. And people hear that, what do you mean at-tawbah min at-tawbah? You repent from your repentance? That sounds like you're not repenting then. No, it's not what he's meaning. He means أن تتوب من رؤية نفسك لتوبتك. It means that you are repenting from thinking that I am a ta'ib, or that my tawbah is is meaningful, and now I'm in this place of ta'ib and I see myself as this way. This is a illah, right? This is a subtle malady that you have, a subtle disease. The true tawbah is to leave it completely with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not think about, oh, ana ta'ib, ana salik, I am this, I am that. Not to see yourself in it. And then when you don't think much of your tawbah then, right, and you still think less of yourself, this is one of the signs of acceptance. When you don't think much of your deeds, when you don't think much of the things that you do, it's a sign of acceptance. وَالْعَمَلُ الصَّالِحُ يَرْفَعُ. In one interpretation, that means the good deeds are raised. So once they're done, you don't tend to dwell on them, right? You're not still talking about it on your Facebook status 3 weeks later. Oh, mashallah, did you see what I did in Ramadan? I read, the Quran like 30 times, and I prayed like 100 rakahs every night, and even the local Ontario news came out to film me because they couldn't believe it, and then still putting pictures and video clips and so forth. You're dwelling, right, on that particular thing. Al-Khas, right, the one who is, they probably don't even remember they did pray tahajjud this night or that night. They don't even think of it. It's like so, Allah give them the tawfiq. Why am I talking about something like that? Right? It's not the thing that they're going to dwell on because they don't think that much of it to begin with. So he's going to talk about that in the last part. So for بالنسبة للخاصة خشية, right? Because عملا بعمل الأنبياء, because the prophets and the messengers they had zuhud. You don't find any of them having, massive amounts of wealth and entourages and things like this. So they want to follow the prophets. So it becomes a khashya, becomes a way of drawing closer to the way of the prophets that way. In another narration, khissa, which means that it would be a shortcoming. How is it a shortcoming for them? In the same meaning, at-tawbah min at-tawbah. One of my teachers, he said, al-haqiqat az-zuhd alla zuhud. The reality of zuhud, of renunciation, is that there's no such thing. Why? Because when you get to that level, you realize that that which is coming to you is going to come to you. Allah is going to give you. And that which is not coming to you is not going to come to you. فَفِي أَيِّ شَيْءٍ تَزْهَدْ. For what is it you are announcing exactly? That which Allah wants to give you is going to come to you no matter what you think about it. And that which is not meant for you is not coming to you. So why are you saying, oh, I don't want this and it's not coming to you anyway? It's kind of like redundant. So for them, they just take things as they come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to say, أَنَا أَزْهَدْ فِي الدُّنْيَا, look at me, I am zahid, I am leaving this off for Allah, there's a bit of a claim, right? Fi da'wah, there's da'wah, right? And da'wah means that you're making a claim about something and saying, kind of, I've reached this or I've reached that. أما للزاهد الحقيقي لا دعوة. There's no da'wah, there's no claim. That's the way it is. So for them, it's like a khissa. It's like something that would be a shortcoming for them to say, أنا زاهد, أنا من الزاهدين, وهكذا. وهو على 3 درجات, and it's 3 levels. الدرجة الأولى الزهد في الشبهة بعد ترك الحرام بالحذر من المعتبة. So the first level has this aspect. الزهد في الشبهة بعد ترك الحرام بالحذر من المعتبة is renunciation of that which is is questionable, shubha, right? The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك, leave that which is doubtful for that which is not doubtful. الحلال بين والحرام بين وبينهما أمور مشتبهات لا يعرفون كثير من الناس. Right? Halal is clear and haram is clear, but there are things in between, mushtabihat, right, that are ambiguous or questionable. Not a lot of people know. So it's like the one who's going around the sanctuary, yushuqa and yaqa fi, so be careful. So don't get close to it to begin with. So this is what we mean by shubha. Right? Taqu shubuhat. So the first level of zuhud then is to stay away from the doubtful or questionable or the ambiguous things. بعد ترك الحرام. Obviously, by also leaving out the haram. If you're saying ana azhad fil haram, that's not really zuhud because you're supposed to be doing that to begin with. So it's istilah, and it doesn't really mean when you say, I'm going to be zahid, I'm not going to eat pork and I'm not going to drink alcohol. This is my zuhud. Hada aslan haram, right? But if you say, I'm going to try to have some level of zuhud and I'm not going to eat something that I don't know the source of it, where it came from. It's questionable to me. I don't know if it was, if the animal was treated in a humane and ethical manner. And so if I'm not sure of that, I'd rather be on the safe side, I'm not going to eat from that. ممكن هذا نسميه zuhud. That's a type of zuhud. Because it's not haram, clearly, but it's something that may be on the kind of ambiguous or shubha side. So, بعد ترك الحرام بالحذر من المعتبة, right? Ma'taba here means so that you can avoid blame, not blame from people. That's not what it's talking about. We're not talking about people. Blame from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you want to avoid something that you won't have to answer for later on fil akhirah. Why did you get involved with this and you were unsure about it and so forth? Complete avoidance of that type of itab, right? Of al-akhirah. وَالْأَنِفَةُ مِنَ الْمَنْقَصَةِ. So the second aspect, الْأَنِفَةُ مِنَ الْمَنْقَصَةِ, which means to reject that which is considered to be a manqasa. In other words, that which is considered to be something that takes away from you, like a shortcoming. For certain people when we talk about Ahlillah, the people of Allah, and we say that, I can't imagine they do this or that. Right? When we think about them, we put them on a pedestal and we see them as higher. So you want to kind of be on their coattails and follow them. So you don't want to do anything that would be considered to be something like this. In other books, they would say, شيء مخل بالمروءة, right? Something that is kind of, a chivalrous person wouldn't do it, right? شيء خسيس, it's not something that, someone who's of a stature or of a reputable person wouldn't engage in that, even though it's not necessarily haram. So like walking down the street while eating a sandwich, while it's perfectly fine in this society here and people do it all the time, but in many societies, definitely in many Muslim and more conservative Muslim societies, to do that is a big faux pas, right? It's like what are you doing walking down the street and you're like, eating your shawarma sandwich, and it's dripping on you and you're walking down the street, and because food is muhtaram, food is to be respected. You're supposed to sit down, and even you're not even supposed to eat it by yourself. You're supposed to have people with you and you share in the meal. There's etiquettes and adab that come from Islam. It's not just the society, but these come from Islam that you should try to be observed. So al-anifa min al-manqasa. I don't want to do anything that's like shit naqis, right? Shit mukhil bil muru'ah. Something that is considered to be, not reputable to do. And karahat musharakat al-fusaq. So these are all like motivations. And you don't want to be in the same category as al-fusaq, those people who are reprehensible, fasiq, someone who does mukhalafat, someone who does a lot of sins, or doesn't pay any attention to and doesn't have a deliberate sort of methodology in life and just do whatever satisfies them. You don't want to appear like them. It's not saying that you are one of them, but you don't want to do the same things that they do, right? So maybe I keep bringing up Arab examples for some reason. you go to the, you like to drink coffee and go to the coffee house, but late at night after 10 p.m., it's all about shisha and nargila, and it's all about the pipe that they smoke. And generally speaking, it's frowned upon. It's not seen as something that a respectable or reputable person would generally do. You may be there just to get a coffee or a Pepsi or something like that, and nothing wrong with that. But you're sitting in the same sitting amongst those people. So, karaha and musharaka fi hada, right? You don't want to be seen even, not by people. All of this is not people, but it's your own sort of internal resolve. I don't want to be in the same company or seen in the same company before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'd be ashamed as these people are engaging in this type of activity, right? And, I think Muslims, they need to think about, these things a little bit more, because oftentimes we participate in some of these things that, we think there's nothing wrong with them, but, so like these, what do you call it, music videos and these type of music festivals and where people are kind of doing all sorts of things, and why do you want to be in an environment, put in a position and you don't feel a sense of shame before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you're kind of doing these things. You're not like them. Maybe you're not smoking weed like them and you're not doing the things they're doing, but they're doing it and you're around them, right? So it's as if you're in the same surah. It's almost like a musharaka. So, karahat musharakat al-fusaq. You don't want to be doing that. And so this is descriptive, not prescriptive, as I said. This is how they feel when they're in this place. Zahid, in this level, that's how they feel. I don't want to be part of that. الدرجة الثانية الزهد في الفضول وما زاد على المسكة والبلاغ من القوت باغتنام التفرغ إلى عمارة الوقت وحسم الجأش والتحلي بحلية الأنبياء والصديقين. Here, الزهد, the first one is زهد في الشبهة, which is that which is doubtful. This one, the second level higher, الزهد في الفضول. والفضول ما فضله, that which is extra, right? That which is not in the realm of necessity, or what can be considered excessive or beyond what is your necessity. وما زاد على المسكة, right? المسكة ما تمسك به نفسك, that which keeps you alive, survival, and keeps you dignified at the same time. We're not saying that we should just eat enough so we don't starve, but you live a dignified life. But that which is beyond that, not because you detest it, but you have better things to do. So that's what he's saying here. باغتنام التفرغ إلى عمارة الوقت, right? Because if I'm so busy thinking about what I'm going to eat and how am I going to eat it and making the money that I need to do it and buy these things, then this is all not just taking up physical time, it's taking up spiritual time too. It's taking up time in my heart. So I want to give it its haqq, right? Enough for me to live, but I don't want to give it more than that, so that I can free up my time for what's more important. Free up my time for khidmah, for service, right? Service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, service to people, whatever it may be, but something that's more important than just that which is above and beyond my necessity, just to self-satisfy myself, is what he's saying. وحسم الجأش والتحلي, right? حسم الجأش, which means, just so you cut off gluttony, not just in food, but in even desire of things that are frivolous. Just cut it off from its root, from its source. وَالتَّحَلِّي بِحِلْيَةِ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ وَالصِّدِّقِينَ, right? And to take on the mantle, hilya, the beautiful mantle of al-anbiya was-siddiqeen, of the prophets, and al-awliya, the siddiqeen, because that's where they're at, right? Following people or trying to be like people of success is success in of itself, as the poet said. والدرجة الثالثة الزهد في الزهد بثلاثة أشياء. So the renunciation of zuhud itself. And he said it's with three things. One, باستحقار ما زهدت فيه واستواء الحالات عندك والذهاب عن شهود الاكتساب ناظرا إلى وادي الحقائق. The first one, استحقار ما زهدت فيه. Belittling or feeling scorn for that which you have renounced to begin with. So you're zahid in what exactly? The things that are extra and are excessive, they don't have meaning to begin with. So zuhd fi zuhd means what did I give up actually? What I gave up doesn't have any meaning. It's only when you feel that the things that you gave up are important and meaningful that you feel like you've done a lot. Oh, really? SubhanAllah, it took a lot for me not to buy the Mercedes S-Class, and I just went for the BMW 7 Series. That was like, big deal for me. But when you see that it's nothing to begin with, then you don't see that there's zuhud. في أي شيء زهدت لأن هذا الشيء لا شيء, because that thing is nothing to begin with. So why you don't feel that there's a zuhud to begin with? Because it's small from that which you are actually making zuhud with. واستواء الحالات عندك أي حالات, and to see to be indifferent to whatever situation that you find yourself in, whether you're in a situation of plenty or you're in a situation of ease or in a situation of difficulty. These halat are kind of all the same, because the point behind them is training for your heart. And so you see them as, one day it's sunny, one day it's rainy. One day it's cloudy, one day it's warm and sunny, the other day it's not. So just to see it as kind of as the circumstances that come our way, shouldn't really get angry that it's raining today. I had nothing to do with that. I didn't bring it about, but this is what it's supposed to be for today. يوم لك ويوم عليك. So istiwa al-halat. And that also means, al-madh with them, whether people praise you or whether people censure you or rebuke you. It doesn't have a value to you, because you're concentrated on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Especially things of the dunya. And then finally, والذهاب عن شهود الاكتساب ناظرا إلى وائد الحقائق. This one is a little more difficult to explain, but we'll give it a shot. So الذهاب عن شهود الاكتساب. So here, iktisab means that I am earning degrees, so to speak, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? I have zahid, I skip this, I renounce this. So there's this idea of iktisab. So الذهاب عن شهود الاكتساب, right? Don't dwell with that it's me, I did this, because there's still ego in that. ناظرا إلى وادي الحقائق. But reorient your gaze or your witnessing, your nazar, إلى وادي الحقائق, to the valley of realities and truths. And in the valley of realities and truths is everything is by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nothing that doesn't happen except, as we said before, by His will, by His qudra, by His power, by His knowledge. And so, but now we want to have a hal of shuhud of that. We want to witness that within ourselves. So why would we think we're making iktisab when all we say is, Allah gave me that? Allah is the one who made this, facilitated this for me. The verse in the Quran, قُلْ بِفَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَبَرَحْمَتِهِ فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا هُوَ خَيْرٌ مِمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. Say by the favor of Allah and His mercy, فَلْيَفْرَحُوا. Right? So you want to have shuhud, you want to have farah, you want to rejoice, then say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted me this. So the sentence begins with Allah and not with I or me or ana. أهلك, I think. So it's not the I, it's not the me, but it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this valley of truths and realities, there is no other truth and reality. It is the reality. It is the truth. And so I'm not going to be busy with myself. So you don't see that you took something or that you left something, because Allah is the one who gives and Allah is the one who takes. Not you is the one who's giving and not you is the one who's taking. So you become too busy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to worry about what I did or what I'm doing or what I am gaining and so forth. وهكذا. And that's actually going to be, in the third level of many of these, that's where it's headed. Until it culminates in the last chapter of Tawheed. And true Tawheed is to recognize and have witnessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is Tawheed al-Af'al, wa Tawheed al-Isma' wa-Sifat, wa Tawheed al-Dhat. Tawheed al-Af'al means that there is a unity and oneness of all the acts of the universe and that they emanate from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then those acts in the universe are nothing more than a byproduct of the effects of Allah's names and attributes. فَهُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ هُوَ الْقَهَّارُ هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ هُوَ الرَّحِيمُ. And everything that we see then is a tajalli, or a manifestation of those attributes. And there's a oneness in that. And then finally, Tawheed al-Dhat. Allah is one in His essence. He's not divisible, He's not multiple, but He is one and immutable and unchangeable, and we don't have a concept or a comprehension of His essence, but we recognize that it's one. And so then our comprehension, at least in terms of spiritual cognition and dhawq, will be at the level of asma' wa sifat. So when we see someone who has sustenance, we say, هذا من عمل الرزاق. When we see someone who is compelled or overwhelmed, we say, هذا من القهار, هذا قهر, من القهار, and then we recognize it within ourselves. When we see any manifestation of mercy, then we say, هذا من الرحمن الرحيم. When we see رأفة, هذا من الرؤوف, وهكذا. Right? And so then you see everything then as tajalliyat, or manifestations of Allah's beautiful names and attributes. And that concludes the chapter about Zuhud. The next chapter is about al-wara', sometimes translated as scrupulousness, where he says and begins the chapter, قال الله عز وجل وثيابك فطهر, Surah Al-Mudaththir, speaking to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what's the connection between wara', or scrupulousness, and وثيابك فطهر, and your clothes, make sure that they are pure? Even the Mufassirun in this ayah, they said that it wasn't specifically necessarily talking about the Prophet's clothes, but it was a metaphor for, everything else. In other words, anything, the opposite of tahir is najas. The opposite of that which is pure is that which is considered to be filthy. And filthy in the deen doesn't mean something that is like mud and dirt, but najas is what the Sharia stipulates as ritually filthy. In other words, there's an aspect beyond the physical of it that makes it impure. So, dirt and mud and clay, if it doesn't have any other impurities in it, is not filthy. It's not considered to be najas. Whereas, the finest bottle of red wine from the Napa Valley in California, the whole bottle is najas. It's considered najasa. In other words, if you get it on your skin, I'm not saying you're drinking it, you get it on your skin, you have to wash it off before you can pray. So najasa then is not about if we're disgusted by that thing or not, or if there's a physical, it's not about how many bacteria are in the substance, but it's something that is stipulated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the Sharia. So that's what we mean by tahara and najasa. So leave off all that which is najasa. So with wara' then means to be scrupulous and careful and not to get involved in anything that would have the meaning of najasa, the meaning of impurity. And the verse here, that's how I think he relates it. وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ. So just like water purifies something that is, if you had the wine on your clothes, you just wash it off. You don't have to throw the thing away. You wash it off. So water is a purifying agent, right? And according to 3 of the 4 madhahib, water is a purifying agent, not because that water can clean something and rinse it and it can remove the stain, but because Allah stipulated it. There's a ma'na ta'abbudi, right? There's a meaning that in it, that the water itself will not be purifying unless you make an intention that it's purifying. So yes, the Hanafi madhab doesn't obligate one to have the intention before wudu, but it's recommended. Whereas in the other 3 schools, legal schools, it's an obligation. So if I were to go and make the actions of wudu with the water, but I didn't have an intention to do that, then my state of hadath is not lifted. I didn't make wudu. I needed intention. So that means that it's not just the water itself, but there's kind of a spiritual quality behind it that is infused in it with the intention. Then it has the power at that point to ritually purify the limbs and so forth. And even it's not about the physical washing of the limbs, right? It's not about, what if I didn't get dirt on my arm? How come I'm making wudu over my arm, right? Over my face. Maybe the hands I can understand, the feet I can understand, but why wipe the hair and why wash the arms? These are ma'ani, right? These are meanings, right? And the Prophet ﷺ described it. He said if someone was you by a running river and they were to wash themselves 5 times a day in it, how clean would they be? So the wudu then is not so much about cleaning the physical aspect, but it's about the spiritual, right? It's cleaning you and cleansing you of your sins. And that's what some of the hadith indicate, that wudu has the spiritual quality of cleansing one of the sins that can be considered like najasa. So al-wara then is then how to cleanse the heart of its spiritual najasat, of its impurities. And he's going to define it for us. Here, where he says, الورع توق مستقصي على حضر أو تحرج على تعظيم وهو آخر مقام الزهد للعامة وأول مقام الزهد للمريد. So he says, wara, scrupulousness, is yearning or having kind of the, I don't like his translation here. In other words, having a level of precision and of resolve in avoiding that which is haram, right? Or hadar. Hadar means anything that is haram or anything that would be even shubha, anything that would be questionable. It includes those two things. أو تحرج على تعظيم, right? Or to how would I translate this? The reason behind it, avoiding those things, feeling a sense of taharruj, offense, it's grating inside of you, right? One of the hadith, the meaning of it, that shubha ma yahukku fi sadrak, or something like that. That which is questionable, you're going to feel a grating inside about you. It's not going to feel right for you to do it. So it's based upon التحرج على تعظيم. تعظيم لمن؟ تعظيم لله. So it's based upon you seeing that anything that's an infraction, however small, is big. Why? Because the one that you are transgressing against is Allah. Not because of the thing itself, but the one you are transgressing against. So you take it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is different than people who kind of say, we have sins that are kaba'ir, and we have sins that are sagha'ir, and we have sayyi'at, and we have dhunub. So we have major sins, we have minor sins, and all those are true, right? But what you didn't find the companions asking the Prophet ﷺ, is that a major sin or is that a minor sin? They didn't ask him, is that fard or is that sunnah? Right? These are mustalahat, these are terms that came on later that the ulama used to classify some of these things to make life easier for people. But if you look to the way of the companions, they didn't make a distinction between what was considered obligation and what was not. As long as the Prophet ﷺ was doing it, they want to do it too. Abdullah ibn Umar was, and the son of Umar radiallahu anhuma, was renowned for this. He would do every single thing the Prophet ﷺ did, even if he didn't know why. One time he was on his way in Hajj, and he was on his mount, and he kind of went to an area on the way towards Hajj and circled around and came back. And then I asked him, why did you do that? What was that? He's like, I don't know, but I know the Prophet ﷺ, I saw him do it. So I'm going to do exactly what he did in this point right here. And it's also said that he was also renowned for marking the places where he knew the Prophet ﷺ was. He used this type of black tar to do that. And I was told by people I trust, when they were excavating parts of Mecca and I think Medina as well, that they found remnants of those spots that he marked off when they did all of their excavation and things like that. People saw it. because it's narrated in the Sirah, narrated that Abdullah ibn Umar used to do that, and they actually found the spots where he had left his mark. So he was renowned for following the Prophet ﷺ in everything. He didn't question about that. So the taharruj then, the grading, you don't even want to do a little thing, right? You don't want to be driving and you have a piece of a tissue or something and throw it out the window, and you don't say, oh, who cares, who's going to see, big deal. No, it is a big deal, right? Because it grates. It's a mukhalafa, right? It's something that goes against, the divine command. وهو على ثلاث, and he says, وهو آخر مقام الزهد للعامة. And this, so he considers it a type of zuhud, wal-wara, scrupulousness is a type of zuhud, because it's the last station, lil-amma, right, for the average, for the common person, or the common salik. وأول مقام الزهد للمريد. For the person now who's become a murid, now they're not mutaraddid, they're not like, should I or should I not anymore, they're actually, this is what I'm going to do. Then this is their first spot. This is their first maqam, as it were, their first station. باب الورع. وهو على ثلاث درجات. الدرجة الأولى تجنب القبائح لصون النفس وتوفير الحسنات وصيانة الإيمان. So he says here, تجنب القبائح, which is avoiding things that are so he uses the word qabih or qaba'ih, which means things that are ugly or things that are abominations. And the Quran describes the Sharia of Muhammad ﷺ as يحرم علينا الخبائث ويحل لنا الطيبات, right? So the khaba'ith, things that are khabith or things that are qabih, similar word, are those things that the Sharia considers to be abominable, considers to be reprehensible. And so sometimes the sadiq on their way, they will have, even within themselves, it's not because the Sharia says so, they also feel it within themselves, right? So there's a muwafaqa, there's an agreement with how they actually feel about something with what the Sharia says about it. So they see it as qabih. They see it as reprehensible. So al-wara then means tajannub al-qaba'ih. And I think that's why maybe he selected this word here and he didn't say tajannub al-ma'asi. He didn't say avoiding things that are sinful. He said avoiding things that are ugly, right? Things that are reprehensible, things that are abominable, because now there's a level of mushahada. You see it for the abomination that it is. Instead of saying, well, Allah said it's haram, so I'm not going to do it. But not just He said it's haram, but you see it as an abomination. You see it as ugly and you don't want to have a part of it. That's the level of what I believe he's talking about. Lisawn in-nafs, right? Lisawn in-nafs, so to maintain the nafs. In other words, to keep the nafs in check, right? Because the nafs, it's despicable. Once it gets a taste of something that is like that, then it doesn't want to stop. It wants to have more of it, and it wants to continue. So the way that the nafs shahwaniya goes, the nafs that goes after shahwat and desires, it's a very slippery slope. And it could descend very easily, right? As soon as you open that gate, that pathway, and it could be a very fast kind of slip into that. So you hold it at bay, right? You keep it at bay and you keep it under a lock and key and say you're not going, this is your line right here. You're not going past this. That's what part of Ramadan is about, right? It's keeping our nufus in check. We fast all day for 16 to 18 hours, how long we're doing it, right? Because we're saying, هذا حدك. You're not going to go beyond this. I'm going to keep you in check, right? And you're under my control now, because I'm telling you when you're going to eat and when you're not going to eat, and I'm deciding that. It's a willful decision, right? Because when I'm hungry, right, we wake up hungry, even though we have suhoor, and I wake up at, a couple hours later, I'm like, oh, I'm hungry and thirsty, even though I just ate hours and drank hours ago. But you're telling the nafs, I'm deciding when you're going to eat and when you're going to be satiated, and you're not going to decide that anymore. Because usually, on a non-fasting day, oh, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I'm going to go eat. So your nafs is telling you, now it's time for you to go and eat. And you say, okay. And then you go, right? And then you open the refrigerator and see what's there. And then they're like, that thing that was very sweet, I think I want more of that. And you say, okay, let me get more of that for you, right? And you keep doing that. But now I'm telling you, not this month. I'm deciding for you what it's going to be like. So it's actually liberating because you're free of your ego, at least for the daylight hours, right? It's going to complain, it's going to get irritable, and it's going to, kind of fight and want to run away and all these things, right? Because it's going to get mad at you, your nafs, about this. But if you keep it in check till the end of the month, you can say, I won this battle. At least for this month, 1 month out of the year, I'm winning the battle against the nafs. And perhaps it could extend into the months after that. Maybe Shawwal, I can win the battle too. And maybe even in, why in some of the schools of thought, they have 6 days of Shawwal is recommended. Because it's to remind you, hey, look, you still got a chance at overcoming the nafs. Don't just give up and say, okay, Ramadan is finished, let's move on. No, keep it up. Right? Only 6 days though. You don't have to do, the whole. And hasanat bi'ashri amthaliha, it's at least counts at least as 60 days. Right? And then the 30 days that you did in Ramadan, if they count as 10, that's 300. 300 plus 60 equals 1 year. So it's like you fasted the whole year. If you fast the 6 days of Shawwal after the 30 days or so of Ramadan, and then you put your nafs in check. So, صون النفس وتوفير الحسنات وصيانة الإيمان. Right? توفير الحسنات. In other words, to facilitate and make ease, or to multiply the good deeds. What's the relationship between doing good deeds and wara? It's easier to do them. Because now you are less busy with the things that you were not busy with before, from the frivolous things, and so it frees you up to do more of the things that you would like to do. Because now it's more about willful decision and resolve. It's not about what I feel like doing. So wala is kind of, he considers it to be a gateway from amma to murid, right? From just the average person to someone now who's doing it with resolve. So now your decision can be based upon, I know that there is a particular spiritual outcome and effect of what I'm trying to do here, and so I'm going to live my life according to that, and not just what I feel like doing. So that takes a level of maturity, obviously, and resolve to go to that point, and it will also free you up and give you more time and increase your hasanat, because that in of itself is a hasanah. It's a good deed. وَصِيَانَةِ الْإِيمَانِ, and to safeguard the iman. So what's the relationship between safeguarding your iman and wara? Allahu A'lam, is when you take part in things that are dubious or questionable, right, which wara tries to protect you from, as it's an extension of zuhud, then it will lead to more questions. And eventually, if you do it enough, it will even lead to questions that can affect your iman, right, which can affect your certainty in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when you effectively kind of put those questions to bay, at the level of deeds, at the level of wara, then you protect your iman, you're safeguarding it, siyanat al-iman, from coming into the fact of iman itself. Because our iman is affected by what we do. Iman is not a passive list of beliefs, as many people might think it is. Iman is very active, right? The Sahaba used to say to one another, Ta'ala nu'min sa'a. Let's go practice iman for a moment or an hour or something. Let's make this iman effective, right? So the Quran says to the believers, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, aminu. Oh, you who believe, believe. It's not redundant. And then in iman, يحتاج إلى تجديد وصيانة. It needs renewal. It needs صيانة. It needs to be maintained. It needs to be protected. It needs to be increased. That's all active. And those are going to be affected by the things that you do. They're going to be affected by the things that you think about. They're going to be affected by your internal states. It's going to be affected by the things you see, the things you hear. All of these can have an effect. The company that you keep, most certainly, is going to affect your iman in the sense of the level of certainty you have in Allah and the Akhirah. And so, wara then, as being the first maqam of the murid, protects you from falling into those pitfalls that can lead to doubts even about your iman. الدرجة الثانية, the second level, حفظ الحدود عندما لا بأس به إبقاء على الصيانة والتقوى وصعود على الدناءة وتخلصا عن اقتحام الحدود. Second level consists in keeping within the limits, حفظ الحدود, of that which is objectionable, إبقاء على الصيانة والتقوى, so as to maintain the level of taqwa and siyana here, preservation of the iman, وصعود على الدناءة, and to rise above things that are irreputable, right? Dana'a means things that are not not desirable to fall into. Maybe not so much. It's larger than that which is sinful. It's a bigger category than that. But things that would be, like we said, mukhil al-muru'ah, things that would be not considered to be reputable to do. وَتَخَلُّصًا عَنْ إِقْتِحَامِ الْحُدُودِ, and also to avoid falling into the breaching of the limits, which is, the hudud here is the clear, which is haram. So as we said, zuhud and wara being kind of a higher, more refined form of zuhud, means that you're avoiding things that are not just haram or right at the limit, right? If this is the haram here and here's the limit, it also means not getting close to it. And that also means recognizing that which is close to it and that which is not. He doesn't mention it here, but one should also take care that you don't fall into what's called the tanattu'. Right? The Prophet ﷺ mentioned these type of people, and he said, "Halaka al-mutanatti'un," 3 times. Right? The ones who are nitpicky about something when it's not min bab al-wara. It's not about wara, but it's about being kind of nitpicky and divisive about something that in of itself there's nothing objectionable about it. It's based upon awham. It's based upon something that is a delusion and not something that is ala lisan al-ilm. Those things that are going to be objectionable, the Sharia says they're objectionable. Or the Sharia says that they're close to the limit. Not something that you determine on your own, right? And then you want to kind of impose it upon other people. And the thing about wara also, especially if you're in a position of leadership, is that you don't impose it upon other people. Imam al-Nawawi was the Mufti of Damascus, and if he was asked about, the meat of Damascus, his fatwa would be that if it's slaughtered in the proper way, then you can go eat from it. But his wara is he never ate from it, because he just didn't feel comfortable about it. But he didn't impose that upon other people. He knew the distinction between that which is wara and then that which is clearly just halal and haram. And it's not it would be dhulm then. It would turn into oppression if someone was to impose their understanding of scrupulousness, in a fatwa scenario, or to impose it upon other people. So, insan al-wara' al-qasra, he is the one who is avoiding and not getting to the limits, as he says here. Hifz al-hudud. So you know where the limits are, right? عندما لا بأس به. So that which is ordinarily not at the limit, but avoiding that so you don't get to the limit. إبقاء على الصيانة, so that you maintain your progress, والتقوى, and maintain your taqwa, وصعود على الدناءة, and avoiding those things that are irreputable, وتخلص عن اقتحام الحدود, and also so that you may not fall into and crossing the limits by accident. Right? Because if you're at the limit of something and you slip, then you find yourself on the other side of it. It's not too difficult, right? All it takes is a slip. You put yourself in that situation, in that scenario, in that environment. Oh, I'm not drinking, I'm not smoking the weed, I'm not doing that, but you're in it. And you hang out with people there. And you're doing it consistently week after week and night after night. sooner or later you're going to fall into it. More likely than not. So, don't kid yourself and say that it's okay because I'm not doing what they're doing, but eventually that might be the scenario where you're going to find yourself in. So, اقتحاما تخلصا من الاقتحام على الحدود. Iqtiham means like you rush into it. You just fell into it and you didn't realize it. So stay away from it. And that's, if I remember what I called yesterday, I said, this deen is not just about pure willpower. It's not just saying like, okay, I'm going to tell myself no, but I'll put myself in this difficult situation anyway. No, make it easy on yourself. Don't put yourself in a difficult situation. Stay away from the difficult situation, right? Have some shafaqah, have some compassion for yourself, right? Realize that your ego is a powerful thing, and it could lead you that way, and say, I don't want to make it too hard on my ego even. So I'm not even going to put it in that situation where I'm going to force it to say no. It's not, you're not a batal, you're not a champion, by making your life extremely difficult, put yourself in an extremely difficult situation, and then push yourself to say no or avoid the situation. That's not it. The true champion is going to avoid it to begin with and realize that that's a safer route. And then lastly, الدرجة الثالثة, the highest one, التورع عن كل داعية تدعو إلى شتات الوقت والتعلق بالتفرق وعارض يعارض حال الجماعة. So this one is dealing with purely ahwal and not a'mal, right, with states. So it consists of التورع, right, being scrupulous or avoiding كل داعية تدعو إلى شتات الوقت. Anything that is going to, I translate as, the dissipation or messing up of your time. So physical time and also your energies, your spiritual energies. So anything that is going to cause shatat. Shatat means like dispersion. Like when, wallah zihni mushattat, I can't think, I can't focus. Why? Because I'm pulled in 2 million different directions. So don't get pulled in 2 million different directions. Remove the things in your life that are not important, right? That are pulling you in different directions. Cut down on your social media use, cut down on the things that are going to pull you in 1 million different directions, and then have focus. So having wara for anything that's going to lead to shatat, anything that's going to lead to losing focus. Focus of what? Of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالتَّعَلُّقْ بِالتَّفَرُّقْ, right? That's what tafarruq means, as we said earlier. Tafarruq means losing focus and being in it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَعَارضٌ يُعَارضُ حَالِ الْجَمَعِ, and anything, incident or thought or fleeting passion that will get in the way of halat al-jama', which is the opposite of tafarruq. So al-jama' means to be in complete focus with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You may think, that watching that particular sports game or something like that, it's not haram, I'm not going to say that, but it may cause you some shatat, right? It may cause you like, for that hour and a half or 2 hours, and you just sat there and Allah wasn't like in your consciousness. You're just watching the game, and Allah wasn't there with you at that same time. This is going to maybe cause a setback in your spiritual progress, right? That's why oftentimes for the person in the beginning, it takes kind of a steady routine of really trying to avoid those things that are going to pull you out, pull you away. I'm not saying that it's haram to watch or that you shouldn't watch it or anything like that, but realize that if your feeling afterwards is a sense of regret and loss to some degree, don't ignore that. That's sadiq. That's honest. That's true, and take that in consideration the next time that you're going to think about, perhaps, doing the same thing. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam. So we'll stop here for now, and we have 3 chapters left. I'm not sure if we're going to get to all of them in 25 minutes or so. I'll have in the next session, but ما لا يدرك كله لا يترك جله. That which we can't do all of it, at least we do some of it. So alhamdulillah, perhaps at another time we can complete it. Thank you all for listening. Jazakumullah khair. Alhamdulillah.